believe we're streaming live. We're about to start the Gilmore Gang.
Can I hear a confirmation that it's up?
It is up.
Dennis, you have no idea whether it's up.
Yeah, it's up. I see
I
it.
see it. It's right there. It says custom streaming service recording live.
See, I like to wind you up.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You'd like to
method.
start them up since you're talking about Ron.
Ooh, a big Stones reference. They suck.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
They may be good, but they're no
Places,
Prince.
Places, please.
All right,
Okay.
you wild horses. Let's do this show.
Oh,
Good reference.
All right.
You
So
were just joshing us there, Dennis.
here we
yeah.
go.
Keith,
I
Frank.
can't get no satisfaction from this group.
Ah, okay.
Took me a
That's
little
enough.
longer than,
Too much.
Where's the towel? I need to throw it in.
Too short in the very, very beginning. Okay.
I don't have sympathy for the devil.
Okay.
I am the devil.
All right, you guys. All right.
Very.
Yeah, all they got is song titles. Talent,
right.
no.
All right. Here we go.
Anybody got some brown sugar?
Oh,
I refuse.
okay.
I-
To the show, please.
No,
people.
I
All
don't
right.
think Brent's going to make it to the actual start.
No, he's having a hard time.
Nap time, Brent.
Okay, here we go. And mute is off. And we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi. Is this long enough? Hi, this is Steve Gilmore, and this is the Gilmore Gang. And Brent Leary is already in full despair.
We can tell that because he's not in profile.
It's
I'd like to
3D.
I'd like to take a moment to express my apologize for.
Oh, no. No. You're not getting off that easy.
Is all you have to do is apologize? Is that all?
Yeah, well, you had to be there. Dennis was there.
wish I had been there.
And the co-conspirator, unindicted co-conspirator, Pombriand.
I prefer to be known as individual one.
Ay, ay, ay.
Okay, so this is the Gilmore Gang, and the first person that we're going to invite was going to be Brent Leary, but since he's trying to take this over with an abject apology, which he totally doesn't mean,
Well, abject means he does.
Ooh.
I abject that. Can we?
Well, can
So
we just
pick one.
extract it?
Who's the first person that we're talking to? Gang.
That's your call, man. It's called the Gilmore Gang for a reason.
That's right. So which one is it?
Janice Pombriant.
Thank you. Where are you? Are you there? Welcome, Dennis.
Hi there, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here on this beautiful Friday.
Is that enough for a lower third?
Is that enough?
This show's been gone for about a half an hour now, hasn't it?
We'll work with it. We'll work with it.
Well, as far as you know,
That's what it feels like.
Frank. I call Frank up and it's like, what? Oh,
I apologize for losing track of time because my attitude here in New York is completely waned.
No, it's your attitude.
My attitude.
Yeah.
Does that have anything to do with Adderall? I don't have any of that anymore. So
It's like two of us have already apologized and we're only 10 minutes into the show.
yeah, it's the abject apology tour. Okay, that guy who was just talking, now this is where I fool you. Looks like I'm going to talk about Frank, but I'm actually talking about Brent. Welcome, Brent Leary.
As I was saying a little earlier, I would like to take this.
Oh, we're having technical difficulties here right now.
We still can't hear you, Brent.
Yeah, you need to speak up a little bit.
As I was saying numerous times before, I would like to take this time to sincerely apologize for some of the things that were said, some of the actions that were displayed on yesterday's CRM Players Special Edition.
oh shoot, I missed something good. Damn. Oh, you just killed me, would you?
What happened?
Oh my goodness. No. He's No.
I would prefer to keep moving and looking towards the future, and not dwell on the past, like Mark McGuire once said. But I would just sincerely like to take this time to apologize for
Well,
anything.
there's no need, but keep it up.
Have I groveled enough? Let's move on.
You know, about 3 minutes ago, we had like 100 viewers. We've now got 2.
I didn't know you had that big a family.
Exactly. Oh, you don't know anything then.
All right,
My
so,
wife-
so that voice is Keith Cheer.
It is indeed. It is my voice. I can recognize it. I've heard it many times. And I'm so pleased to be here, but I have no clue what the insider jokes are at all.
There are no insider jokes. Except for maybe this show.
Oh wow! Ooh.
Harsh,
Oh.
harsh, Steve, harsh.
Hey, you had to be there. Let me tell you.
What's Frank, by the way?
I'm having technical difficulties.
He's
It's
there.
I'm listening, I'm watching, but I'm not going to apologize for anything. I just need to fix this thing. So, carry on. And if you want me, it's like radio.
Oh, we've already had enough of you, I think.
Okay. The show hasn't even started yet.
Then there's in the Pacific Northwest, in Tree Hugger Land, it's Michael Markman.
How do you do? Welcome to the Independence Day weekend.
Yeah.
How hot is it there?
Oh, now it's pretty cool. It's barely in the 70s.
Oh wow!
But we had 3 consecutive days over 100
Oof.
last weekend.
Do you have central air in your house?
I do.
Oh,
Frank, what are you doing, Frank?
I'm trying to make my camera work. Why? Did something happen weird?
It sounds like water.
No. I hear that water, but that's not here. Somebody there was a splash of water. I heard it.
You know what it
Who's
says at the top of the screen? It says Frank Radis is talking.
But you can't hear me?
Thank you, Zoom. No, we're not starting again.
No,
we're not.
no, keep going.
And then have we introduced
Frank has devolved into a font.
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, come on. I said it's like radio. Keep going.
He's dematerializing.
Let me make a suggestion, Frank. Hang up, reboot, dial back in.
I can do that.
Okay,
what is that?
so
Did you? Are you hearing it?
Yeah.
Hearing something. Don't
All
know
right.
what it is.
Goodbye. I'm rebooting. Bye-bye.
thanks. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today?
Clearly
U.S.
not.
Labor Department numbers look really good this morning. 850 new jobs, new hires.
850. I thought it was 850,000.
850,000, yeah.
What's a couple of orders of magnitude among friends?
850K, you know, when you get into economics, you're just rounding. Anyhow,
Sooner or later, it adds up to real money.
it's real, it's big, it's pretty freaking good. So now they're forecasting that the economy will be back to pre-pandemic strength a year from now, mid next year. Seems like a long time, but I don't know, unemployment rate's under 6, which is pretty darn good. We're still having supply chain issues, I guess. But things look pretty awesome right now.
My daughter and her husband went to the movies.
First time in over a year, right?
Yeah, probably over 10 years, but that's
No.
Now, was this a family produced movie or was this like a commercial movie?
no, this was like a D-Box movie. Do you know what D-Box is?
No, that's too technical for me.
D-box.
No, it's totally not technical. It's just you sit there and they bring all of the crappy food to your seat.
No, that's not what D-box.
Oh, really? So you don't have to waste calories walking around to get it.
Exactly.
That's
And
not-
then what happens is that when the movie starts, let's say it's a love story, a rom-com, your seat starts to vibrate.
The hell?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You remember
they-
Sense Around?
The
Yes, I do.
sexiest movies in D-box are car chases because then your seat vibrates a lot.
In fact, that's what.
Yeah, they went to what was this? Terminator 25. It was a sequel. Fast and Dangerous. I don't know.
Oh,
I've never
talk about
seen it.
F9.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
But
And-
I had to endure a pandemic and survive it to get that.
It's a test, evidently.
Okay.
So what happened that, the fun thing about going to the movies is that you have to put up with the people next to you. Ah, there we go.
He's
No
there.
more social distance.
Back. Welcome back, Radis.
He can hear or not.
He's about to hear you.
No.
In our local cinemas, they're still at like 50% occupancy. So they keep the people next to you away from you.
That sounds great to me.
And it's all reserved seats. So if you want, you can skip the trailers and just show up.
That's
with
the best part.
Really?
Who doesn't-
Because wasn't the trailers
Absolutely.
like 20 minutes before you even get to see the movie? You got to sit through like 20 minutes of that.
You know, the trailers were the best part when there were 3 of them. Now they just go
Oh, yeah.
wherever.
This is the best Gilmore Gang yet. I mean, it's amazing.
When do we start?
This
real
is
soon,
like for anyone watching this for the first time. This is the best Gilmore Gang for me.
Brent,
What?
As good as it
Dennis,
gets.
what the heck is going on? Have I just entered the Twilight Zone? What the heck?
No, you're trying to get out. Well,
I don't know.
All right.
no.
Well, this is the best I could do, guys. Sorry.
No, this is great. Hello.
You look
Okay.
you look and sound perfect now, Frank.
All right.
As,
So
as part of the best Gilmore Gang ever.
Yeah,
yeah. So now that we've taken care
that's our
of
next topic. How we all look.
You look good. You do look good.
Oh,
I meant
great.
to say that earlier. But I was thinking, honestly, in the last couple of days, I've been giving so much thought to that blurry background, man. That thing is so cool. We should all do the blurry background. It's a great look.
Thank you.
I think Keith is looking to see how he can blur his background.
No, I know how to do it. I'm just deciding whether I should do it.
Well, it couldn't hurt, right? Even for just a millisecond.
I actually can't do it because I'm using a virtual OBS camera.
Ah, okay.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Wherever you go.
Oh, the irony.
Okay, you guys tell me when you've got something interesting to talk about.
Hey, that's my line, ain't it?
Okay, so there's Twitter. Twitter's doing some stuff.
What's Twitter? What?
Twitter is a technology banned for the right wing.
Hey, something interesting. Although not to say that anything that we've just done the last 20 minutes wasn't interesting. I'm just saying.
No, you've already covered that on your own show.
I was reading something that I think one of you guys posted in what's that thing called? You know,
Telegram feed.
yeah,
T-
Telegram. That
Viewers go there. T.me/Gilmore.
I know where you're going with this.
I just thought it was kind of ironic that so we're all using this what's it again? Telegram thing.
Telegram.
And one of the things that was posted, I was reading it, and it said something to the effect of Telegram is a conservative social media tool.
Yes,
I
it's
just thought that's kind of funny that we're using that.
right
Well,
wing social media platform.
Yeah.
It's also, by the way, it's also probably one of the most used tools in Iran.
In Iran. Mm.
Yeah,
Because it's encrypted.
it is.
It's
Yeah.
encrypted.
Yeah,
Sig-
everyone uses it.
Well, we use it because it's got really good group management, and we can post things to it that automatically get reposted in Twitter and end up in Steve's newsletter. So it's a wonderful part of our automated continuum.
We have become, honestly, in terms of the creation of that kind of content, in terms of getting it and then circulating it amongst ourselves, and certainly talking about it, or the whole thing, it's pretty efficient at doing that. Our individual newsletters often, if they don't exactly touch each other, they often joint, whatever the between each other. They work together, which I find to be kind of interesting. And then we talk about it on the show. It's all very, Steve, isn't that what you were going for?
This show's just going to greater and greater heights every time.
I
we
know.
take-
It's just,
See, now
It's
we're
like-
getting into the majesty behind the miracle.
yeah.
This is what's called postmodern, isn't it?
Well,
Actually,
my biggest news of the week is that yesterday the FTC, recognizing that under the Sherman Act and the other antitrust act, that none of the big tech guys were actually breaking the law, passed some new rules to extend their remit to punish these companies for new things that are not breaking the antitrust laws. So the FTC kind of did mission creep by changing its rules, because it lost a big high court thing last week against Facebook when the high court declared that Facebook was not, in fact, being properly, that the complaint against Facebook wasn't adequate to continue.
You mean the
You know,
complaint that they have more people on their platform than any other platform in history?
I know,
Yeah,
it's amazing.
but it's not a monopoly.
Well, they don't get paid for that's a cost center to them, having those people. They don't get paid for that. You can
I
only,
think
you
they
can
will-
only be a
I don't
monopoly.
interestingly, but I thought that there was a move. I think was it this weekend? I think it was France that made some ruling that 25% of income on I want to say Facebook and YouTube, if that was going to be shown in France, had to go to the French back into France. So there's a forced taxing sort of thing. Without saying that they had done anything wrong, they certainly didn't threaten them with some kind of action. They just said, "This is what we're going to do."
Well, that's what's going to happen more and more. Nation states, as there's more and more global technology companies earning money everywhere, nation states are going to try real hard to use all kinds of methods to get their piece of it.
That's what it felt like when I heard that.
And
It felt like a beginning.
Yeah. So who'd want to be a big, successful, big tech company? It's like totally unattractive. Go and get a law degree and get a job.
Yeah, that's really going to stop them.
Well,
from,
innovation
making
clearly
billions of
doesn't
dollars.
pay.
Well,
What?
but
Tell that to Zuckerberg. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I want to hear the response.
Yeah, I want to get the question.
You guys, have you ever tried? Have you ever tried watching the show on Facebook Live while we're doing it, and it's doing the real time captions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the things they have you guys saying.
This week it might be an improvement, you know.
I can't do that now.
No, but to my
Unfortunate.
point, there is a serious point in what I said, which is whatever I think is irrelevant and whatever we think is irrelevant. The fact is the FTC decided the current laws don't allow it to prosecute. So they changed their rules to be able to prosecute outside of the current laws.
That's life.
So-
That's life. Evolution.
Yeah. Hey, Bill Cosby got off.
Oh, let's not go there.
Well,
Technicalities, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the Orange Julius?
I think there is a link, by the way, which is government incompetence, the Cosby thing and the Facebook thing.
Well,
I don't agree with that at all. As far as I'm concerned, this is a process that is being initiated so that there can be a compromise that will provide some degree of regulation.
And I think the government is acting in the mode of bank robbers trying to steal the crown jewels.
Yeah, but what else is new?
It's just a little bit too obvious. Captain Obvious.
What is the crown jewel here?
Money.
Oh, okay.
Well, look, you got a Sherman Antitrust Act that was passed in around 1890. It served really well for extractive industries, manufacturing industries. I think what the court said was that the allegations against Facebook and some of the other companies doesn't really fit in well with the statute as written. The statute needs to be upgraded. That's all.
So, but another way of saying that is they're going to criminalize behavior that previously hasn't been criminalized.
Well, what did the original Sherman Antitrust Act do, if not that?
But then let's define what it is that's being done that's criminal.
Before Sherman, you could sell rancid meat, and that was okay. Sherman and a few other things like the Safe Food and Drug Act brought in the FDA, and yeah, it criminalized a lot of criminal behavior.
So I think what you've actually, there's an interesting point there. In the rise of capitalism, unscrupulous people try to make money by doing bad things, and government, quite rightly, acting on behalf of all of us, regulated and tried to stop that. Now the problem is that these companies are way bigger than nation states, and the money they make is bigger than anyone's ever made, and their market cap is bigger than most countries' GDP. So suddenly, even the US government's too small for the human challenge of what do these big global companies represent to our future. And obviously, there's all kinds of bad things that Facebook represents around privacy, around targeting, same with Amazon. And there's some good things it represents, from a human point of view. It is really quite a challenge as to how you preserve the good whilst managing the bad in a global context where a nation state actually only has limited power.
I don't think you worry about that. I think you decide what the greater good is, and then tell the industry to figure it out. That's what we've done historically.
Can I just add? I just find this fascinating, but think about this Sherman dude. I mean, first he burned Atlanta, marched to the
That was his
city.
brother.
Oh, Sherman.
I thought you were talking about the guy from the Bullwinkle cartoons.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, Sherman and Peabody.
Yeah, that's right. Peabody. Isn't that an award somewhere? It's Atlanta, I think, or Augusta. Where is that award? The Peabodys. It's in Georgia somewhere.
The other,
I thought you were gonna. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Before, I'm not going to give Keith the opportunity to go down another cul-de-sac. So anybody else have something to say?
Yeah. How about this new social media thing called Getter or Get Her or oh my God, please. How in the
What a
world
name.
could that name have even passed the first level of branding school?
You have to understand who the target market is before you look at the name.
Well, I mean, if it's gonna be like the Proud Boys, I get it. But still, it's just an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment of comic riches, is what it is.
So what do we think about the January 6th tribunal, or whatever it's called, the commission, and particularly what the Republican member of the club is?
Has he named anybody yet?
Yes, she.
Oh, Liz Cheney
Speaker of the
joined, right?
House. That's correct.
No, I mean, I'm talking about, has the
No.
Republican side
No.
named anybody? Yeah.
No. They already have a quorum. They have 8 people.
Yeah, they could do it without him, but that blows the whole
It's
bisexual
bipartisan.
thing.
It is bipartisan. You know what? Nancy Pelosi did a very, I think, generous thing in setting that commission up. The legislation setting it up called for 8 Democrats and 6 Republicans. Pelosi appointed a Republican, making it effectively a potential 7-7 tie. So that whatever results that come out of that group will look, I think, essentially bipartisan. I mean,
And legit.
yeah. I thought that was pretty smart.
I think so too.
Did you guys see the New York Times 40-minute documentary made up?
Unbelievable.
It was very, very, I mean, it actually is the best evidence that real journalism matters.
Yeah.
It was an excellent piece, and really created, it was almost impossible not to see a plan. If you watch that end to end, there clearly is a plan that was coordinated and pre-thought through being carried out.
Oh, I don't think it was very, very well planned at all. I mean, you had all those tourists and no restrooms. People were taking dumps in the potted plants.
Well, I didn't say it was a good plan. I just said there was a plan.
Oh. I thought one of the things
Remember that show, Kids Say the Darndest Things?
Yeah.
That was Bill Cosby, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I thought what I found really, one of the things I found really interesting about that video was the unbelievable amount of work that had to get done to pull together that content that was created by people outside the sphere of any professional journalists, and to bring that footage in and to use it as wisely as they did, plus the body cam cameras, plus the network cameras, plus, I mean, the material that they had, plus, I'm sure they had their own people there too. As I understand it, the print press had made it like an all-out campaign to be there, and they had larger groups there than I would have thought any group would have sent, other than the television group. So that just says that the print groups are starting to open up their minds even more strongly to the use of video content.
I don't know what you thought, but for me, funnily enough, the most compelling part of it was on the transport heading to DC, trains and coaches, the film of the guys who were standing up, talking to camera and talking to the other people on the bus. The level of coherence and how articulate they were makes you realize that this is not some kind of brain dead, stupid. This is thought through right-wing politics with leaders who are coherent. They're wrong, but they're coherent. And
Oh,
so
that's the
idea,
point. It's a very small group at the top.
It only burst into an insurrection in January, but this is years of development, of ideological development, of training and organizing. It's not a surprise. It's just a confirmation.
Yeah.
Why is it that the Democrats haven't done anything for the last 20 years about this formation?
That's the perpetual question.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Part of it is,
I could give you a hypothesis.
what would you have them do?
Yeah.
well, what I would say, Michael, is ideologies and passion, when they come together, are pretty forceful things. And the right has a passion-driven ideology right now, which is mainly racist and nationalist. The left's passion-driven ideology is, obviously health, education, social uplift to those who are, oppressed or treated badly. But it's only when you look to people like AOC that you feel the passion. That there isn't really deep passion in the ideology that's bottoms up street. It doesn't compete. So it's almost like the Democrats are the official bureaucrats and these people are the revolutionaries. And revolution's always more attractive than bureaucracy.
Yeah, but
I think I'd say it a little bit
that's
differently.
first of all, that's just not true. I mean, there's about 29% to upwards of 35% that are in this group. So it's not that it's that popular. It's that it's
Wow.
Passion driven.
They have two very, very different objectives. The right has as its objective to capture and maintain power. That's it. They don't really care about governing. And you can tell they don't do a very good job when they do government. Look at Trump, look at W. They're great at winning elections. The left, on the other hand, is all about governing. It's all they don't campaign very well. Their focus is on the minutia of governing. If you go all the way back to Machiavelli, he said, even in a republic, politics is war, and that's something that the right really understands, and the left doesn't. They are not playing the same game, and the guys that are gunning for power are the ones that are winning.
Let me suggest a reason for why that is the case. The right has a really interesting alliance and coalition. The money on the right is mainly coming from oligarchs, from extractive industries, and from large family fortunes that want to maintain that. In a country that's ruled democratically, they can't maintain that power without enlisting voters. Right. And you know, if you read documents from earlier in our history, the people who founded the country were always worried about democracy as leading inevitably to a redistribution of wealth. You know, you can find that in Hamilton, and you can find that all through the 19th century. So what the right has managed to do is mainly using social and cultural issues and racial issues to build alliances with people whose interests they are not serving, and that's where you have this great passion, the ability of the oligarchs to incite the passion of the racists and the anti-gay people and the anti-abortionists, and the whole litany of cultural issues that gets raised is really remarkable. And you can see it all coming together in the last decisions of this year's Supreme Court test. What they did was support voting restrictions that will affect Black people, and support the lack of restrictions that will affect dark money coming in to finance the entire right-wing enterprise. And Trump was an absolute genius at being able to tune into and speak to the level of voters whose interests are not being served by the right-wing agenda.
Amen.
That's depressing.
You know what I noticed after the Supreme Court ruling and looking at all the states that have passed restrictive voting laws, they're all red states. And what it finally occurred to me, and you guys probably already thought of this, is that the GOP, the far right, doesn't really want to take over the nation and have an authoritarian rule. What they want to do is ensure a more or less 50-50 split so that they can continue fighting over border states that could go one way or the other in an election. If you look at the map, you get the Intermountain Rocky Mountain states. They're all red states. They've all got restrictive voting laws. I feel bad for the people there, but it doesn't fundamentally change the voting map.
Well, it does in some respects, because they have disproportionate representatives in having 2 senators each. So you can have a state with less than 1 million people having 2 senators. You can have a state with
Idaho,
with 40 million
North
people
Dakota,
also
South
having 2
Dakota.
senators.
Yeah. Yeah, meanwhile, California has-
within those states, they really manage through things like gerrymandering as well as voter suppression to maintain control that goes beyond their electoral popularity. So in Wisconsin, for instance, the Democrats got 56% of the vote and lost seats in the state legislature.
Yes.
By the way, in that Rocky Mountain range, don't forget that Colorado has managed to be purple tending to blue.
Yes. Yes. So you got that one. You also got Ohio trending more and more red.
So what are we,
Tennessee-
what are we
Tennessee is even-
celebrating? What are we celebrating on July 4th?
I think we're celebrating the fact that we're going to pardon a turkey.
We're celebrating the founding of this great nation, and we're doing a retrospective analysis of how long it's taken for us to screw it up.
So
Well,
again, I'll ask the same question, which is, what are the Democrats doing about this? It's not like, they all have TVs, they all have the ability to, go on vacation. Everybody has the same basic rights, available to them, but the Democrats do not show the willingness. I mean, I think Biden is showing a certain amount of skill.
Passion.
Well, I just think, to make this about passion is
I
like,
don't know, but-
let's go
but-
to
The
No,
smart
Pat-
people in the Congress are smart people, regardless. They are smart people. The differentiator may well just be something like passion. It's not
But
going to be that they have many different tools. It's how they use the tools.
Frank, I would
let me
say,
give you a contrarian point of view. Biden won because he does not project passion. Biden won because he projects safety and projects comfort, and if you look at the content of what he's doing, it's pretty radical, and it has maintained the loyalty of the most passionate members
Yeah.
of the Democratic coalition. AOC is not fighting him. Bernie is not fighting him. Elizabeth Warren is not fighting him. They all recognize that he is their greatest instrument. Just as Trump was a great instrument for the GOP, Biden is a fantastic instrument for the Democrats. And I think this knock that the Democrats don't know what they're doing is a little bit of an old and empty knock.
Actually,
Actually,
Michael, I think
Much
Michael,
better than I think Steve would give them credit for.
Michael, I think you're right. I saw an interview with AOC. It was about 5 days ago now, on the human infrastructure element of the infrastructure plans. And the interview tried really, really hard to get her to go anti-Biden. And she was incredibly measured. He even said, well, is there a number below which, you'll just not be in favor of this? And she said, well, it isn't about a number. It's about changing people's lives. And it's what is the content of the proposal. And if the number that is in it can actually do that, then I'm going to be fine with the number. So she really tried really hard to be thoughtful and collaborative, and make it really hard for the Republicans to characterize her as a crazy. So I agree with you.
There is so much message discipline across the Democratic Party, from the example you just cited of AOC. And if you look at the way Jen Psaki carries on in her press briefings, huge message discipline. Biden, who has been characterized as a loose cannon, has also shown, with very few exceptions, to have a lot of focus and careful message discipline. So, I don't think the Democrats are doing badly. And then you have all the outside of government organizations, such as Indivisible and Fair Fight, and all of the things that are going on at the community level. They are just not as hysterical and crazy as what you're seeing on the right.
So now, if you change the center of gravity from that back to how coherent are these street bottoms up right-wing people. And Frank, I don't think passion alone really ever is good enough, because that's just populism.
I'm not suggesting that it.
When passion meets ideology, and if the ideology is racist and nationalist, that is a powerful combination. And so what I was more saying is, how can the Democrats get their constituency to be as coherent and as excited as they need to be for the next election?
That is the key question.
Boy, I was just going to say,
I keep saying as often as I can that politics is less about persuasion as it is about motivation. And the question is, how are you going to get them to show up?
Well, one of the great
Because in
motivators of all
every
time is
political movement, there are concentric circles of people who are tightly engaged and people who are peripherally engaged.
Okay, so you just said that how great the Democrats are doing. So how are they going to get people to the polls?
I think through message discipline and through clear coordination between the government party and extra government people who are working this issue.
Well, I think all
we're gonna
that's true, but there's a little bit more. I think the last election showed that if the progressives want to get anywhere, they've got to go through the middle of the road organization, and doing that means not banging your fist on the table and talking about redistributing wealth or anything else. It's about talking about kitchen table issues, and I think they did that well in 18. They did it well in 20, and I think if they lose a couple of fights that are close right now and make those election issues, and if those are points like universal pre-K, who doesn't want to send their little kid to school? Things like that are going to drive the next election if the Democrats are smart.
I think it's either winning some of those or losing them. Either one is okay. A kind of a wishy-washy middle isn't.
You're absolutely right. It seems like the Republicans are trying really hard to just play out the clock. If you notice, it's hard for the Democrats to even get a vote that they know they're going to lose in the Senate.
Just to get it brought up.
Say again?
Just to get it brought up so that they can vote on it. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, how much stuff is sitting on someone's desk right now and not moving?
Because people either need a hero or a victim. So the Democrats can't be modeled. They've either got to be a hero because they did stuff, or a victim because they tried to do stuff and were stopped because they haven't got enough seats.
That's exactly right. That's the Charlie Brown theory.
Well, and the thing
But
is,
based on what you're saying, they
banked.
need a hero. No, the victim is already existing and he's already on the other side.
They've already banked a huge amount with the American Rescue Plan, with the vaccine rollout. So they've got one score on the win column. Now, if they lose some of the other votes based on the fact that people like what they want to do, that's very helpful. But let's not lose sight of the fact that there are structural reasons why the Republicans have an advantage. Redistricting is coming up based on the census. There are red states that control the way their congressional districts will be drawn. The Republicans do have an advantage to retake the House that the Democrats have to overcome. The Democrats are starting a little bit in the hole, so they have to work extra hard to get there.
Are they going to do that?
I am reasonably
lose the
confident that
House?
they will. I'm not totally confident.
Why? For what reason? Message discipline is going to keep the House in Democrat hands?
For what Keith was talking about. I mean, this is a question of you're taking something to the public and saying, do you want this? Vote for me. You know, part of politics is always about the future. It's not about rewarding me for what I've done last time. It's about empowering me to do what I'm going to do for you next time. So both the wins and the losses can work for the Democrats legislatively. these are things you want that the Republicans have kept us from giving you. So send us back. That's a good message.
It is. Not only that, but there are 20 or 22 Republican senators up for re-election and about 14, probably 20 and 14 Democrats, which means that if the Democrats pick good candidates, they should be able to steal a couple of those seats and
Yeah.
have a
If
net
the
gain.
Democrats can get above 50, they can get to 52, they can kill the filibuster. That
Yeah.
changes everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you think we're going to see larger grassroots on the ground kind of Democrats pushing people and helping people to vote?
To the extent that the new voting laws allow it, they will. Yes.
Oh, we have to nationalize Stacey Abrams.
Hmm.
We have to clone her.
Yeah, you guys in Atlanta.
So a year ago or 2 years ago, we would have been fascinated with all these tech issues. How come we don't care anymore?
Which tech issues?
Yeah, which ones?
Exactly. Which ones?
No,
I-
I mean, the question
No,
is,
I think-
it's a question of technology, and it's also a question of the politics surrounding the instruments of technology. So which do you want to talk about?
No, I think it's the
New chip
distinction.
development, new code development, or the stuff that Keith keeps bringing up about antitrust and regulation.
Well, here's the problem. There are great things happening in technology. There really are. We could talk about lots of technical advances, not least the M1 chip that Apple did and what that implies about the future. But the tone of the conversation around technology, which I blame the Democrats for, is entirely negative. The antitrust dominates the thinking. And so it's the bad guys. It's like America's most important global successes have become the bad guys, and the Democrats want to break them up. And therefore, there's no positive narrative that you can have the minute that there's a political conversation. Now, if you turn politics off and you just look at what's actually happening with, YouTube TV just announced 4K streaming for the Olympics. Apple's latest stuff, the developments in banking that are freeing you from the middleman. There's so many great things happening in technology. 199 unicorns so far in 2021, which is more than any other year. It's going to end up being double any other year, not because there's a bubble, but because there's big companies being built with lots of revenue.
Keith,
So,
I want to agree with you, but I think there's a better explanation. And the explanation is, to Steve's question, is that what we're seeing in tech is evolutionary. In fact, the fact that you're going to 4K streaming doesn't change the basic fact that we're all going to see the Olympics. But if you look at politics, on the other hand, what you're seeing is revolution. And revolution gets more eyeballs than evolution.
And the issue with big tech, for the most part, the one that gets me worked up, has to do with the use of network technology and algorithmic distribution of messages to spread poison through the society. I'm not interested in how much money Facebook is making. I'm interested in how much anti-vaccine messaging they're putting out, and how much anti-democratic messaging they're putting out, and their ability to target and multiply it.
Well,
That's the issue for me. I could care less.
But let's take that on,
Zuckerberg's
Michael. Let's take that on. In order to fix that, and you're quite right in your description of some of the things that happen. If you wanted to fix that, you have to become anti-democratic, because the people who are spreading that are the masses. And you have to end up saying, I'm cleverer than they are, let's stop them. And you can't do that.
Masses. It's not the masses who are spreading that.
It absolutely is.
It's a small group of exploitative actors who are exploiting who are exploiting the opportunities available to them.
That's just another conspiracy theory. It's normal people.
No, it's not. If you look at it historically,
normal
look at the
people.
19th century. Look at the 19th century. There was no free voting in the 19th century. The opinion was held by was promulgated by anyone rich enough to have a printing press, and that was only a few people. And voting was only by men. And voting booths were not booths; they were saloons. And you went to the saloon all day and got liquored up. And when it came time to vote, all you had to do is stand up with a group of other people, and voila, we had an election.
And I'm praying that you don't consider that to be a glorious past.
I don't consider it to be a glorious past. Just the opposite. But what I'm saying is there are a lot of parallels to today to people harvesting votes through Facebook or whatever. And yet, if you go back to the 19th century, you discover that there was a revolution in democracy led by the muckrakers, led by people like Teddy Roosevelt, and maybe initiated with the Sherman Antitrust Act that actually went into effect, and it was like 10 years before it was really used.
But Dennis, let's
let him finish. Let him finish.
So all I'm saying is I think we live in very interesting times where we're on the cusp of a revolution in democracy.
But what could that be? I mean, if we object to the spreading of poison, which none of us like, and our remedy for that is to prevent it, isn't that in its essence bound to be anti-democratic?
No.
Regulatory.
How about education? Why don't we educate? In other words, the minute you want to use rules to stop people, isn't that a bad path to get on?
Well, how about the rule that you have
remember
to
this algorithm?
Hang on a second. I want to hear answers to questions. So what's the answer? What's the answer, Dennis, to what he just asked?
I'm making an analogy. There are lots of rules in society that seem to go against democratic principles, like stopping at a red light or not yelling fire in a crowded space. Yet we accept those because when we live together as a society, we all subsume some of our innate natural freedoms to the good of the polity, so that we can all live and be safe.
I don't think that's a good answer because the context is different. If you have got, let's even minimize it and say 30% or 20% of the people who have completely wrong ideas, often fake ideas, but believe them and proselytize them, I don't think you can use rules against 20% of the populace.
Michael, do you have an answer to that?
I've already come up with the rule.
I have a side note. Algorithms are by definition rules. The fact that this poison gets promulgated is a result of the rules that are written into the code of these network social media. So we have rules. They're just rules that we don't see. They're rules that we don't really understand.
So let's open that up. What are the rules? The rules are, if it's popular and I think you'll like it, I'm going to show it to you. And by the way, that applies to all idea sets and all audiences. So I get to see stuff I'm likely to like. And my, friend of my sister who is a nationalist gets to see stuff she might like. So the algorithm is benign. It's not
entirely benign, because there's another part of the rule, and that has to do with passion, with anger, with addiction, with showing people things that will keep them engaged because it arouses them, not intellectually, but emotionally. And that's a large part of how these rules are written. They're written like slot machines. There are rhythms to slot machines to keep people engaged. You give them little wins, you make the bells go off, you do things that excite them so they don't walk away. Sitting in a slot machine is not a rational choice. It's an emotional choice.
Well,
large part, social media, YouTube, TikTok, all of them are based on on that kind of manipulation.
Well,
We're keeping you excited. We're not keeping you engaged intellectually. We're keeping you aroused.
If I read back to you what you just said in the worst interpretation is, it's okay for me to be shown stuff I'm going to find interesting because I'm smart, but a dumb person shouldn't get stuff that they'll find interesting because they're dumb, and it'll make them dumber. Well, I don't think you can.
No,
I don't think he said that at all.
I didn't say
that's
smart.
why I said I was translating it.
No, but I think you're mistranslating it.
Can I give you a
This has to
different
do with
translation?
Emotional involvement, not intellectual involvement. It doesn't have to do with whether you're smart or dumb. It's whether you feel attacked or not, whether you feel outraged or not. I mean, that's what drives the engagement algorithms.
Michael is
It's not just,
exactly
I'm
right.
interested in cameras. Show me some more cameras.
Dennis,
That's a small piece of it.
What Michael's talking about.
The big driver is, how dare they? How dare they? They're coming after me. I got to do something about this. That's the big driver.
Weren't we like that about Trump?
I want to know about trucks this morning.
We were like that about Trump. I mean, we were very emotional about him.
Exactly. Yes. I'm not saying they're bad and we're not. I'm saying that when you have the discussion on the question of freedom of ideas and freedom of your ability to put your ideas out on the marketplace to see if people will buy them, you're ignoring the demagoguery that is baked into these algorithms.
I think
there's a difference between
all of us would be in violent agreement at the level of describing the consequences of the way the algorithms work. I think the hard thing is, do we have any business trying to fix them so that our way of thinking benefits?
I don't think that's the question. I think what we're looking at is the interesting thing I think about free markets is that we use our higher intellect, our mammalian brain, to organize markets, and markets are designed to appeal to your reptilian brain. So I think all anybody wants is to not take advantage of people's reptilian brains.
Well, you raise a very good point, because I used to work in advertising, and advertising works like that. It's not a question of listing all the speeds and feeds of your product and explaining what they do. It's making people desire your product in whatever way is possible. So
again, I agree with the description.
To take a beer commercial or a soda commercial, you don't talk about, you show people having fun. You show
I agree with
people having fun. You show sexy people having fun. Oh, well, I want that.
You sell sizzle, not steak.
So I agree with that description, but it still comes back to, how do you fix it? Because when you've got 300 million people made up of all kinds of demographics and points of view, and there's a kind of a publishing platform that they all can participate in if they choose, and the platform shows them stuff that the platform thinks they'll like, is there really a fix? Wouldn't it be better to just acknowledge you have to win the arguments rather than try to control the message?
No, because
I think you have to do both.
You keep coming back to things you'll like. It's more likely that they'll show you things you won't like.
Okay, but let me hear Frank's opinion, please.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's some combination of the two things, and I think argument is still a valid point, because argument implies that there are more than one side to a story, and I think that my immediate reaction is that what's going to be the next democratic marketing strategy, because I'm not sure that they quite handled any kind of like overt large scale marketing strategy like the Republicans did. At the same time, the Democrats can express their differences by voting and by creating commissions and by doing the things that they're already doing, but saying more good things about it to more people in larger swaths. I do think there's a marketing play here.
See, I think there are two paths. One is utilitarian, which fundamentally says the greatest utility for the greatest number of people is what we want. The other is a more I forget the word. There is a word for it. But the other side of the coin is doing the right thing, right?
Virtue.
We don't sanction lying. We don't sanction murder, not simply because they're bad, but because they're the wrong things to do. You can't have a society like that. So when it comes to, how do you regulate the quote unquote free market of ideas on the internet? You ask fundamentally, what is the right thing? Not what makes all of us happy.
I think that's exactly right, Dennis. But I think also the point is that if make one assumption that one side has a desire to do the right thing and not to lie, and then tell people that you're doing and working on the right thing for them and not to lie, as opposed to just organically assume that the right thing will make people open up their eyes and say, oh yeah, they're doing the right thing. I don't think it works that way.
Well, I think you're close. I think telling people you're doing the right thing and either winning or losing, as we discussed earlier, is what gets more votes, what gets people on your side.
And one little caveat, telling people you're doing the right thing and actually do the right thing, as opposed to telling people you're doing the right thing and then not do the right thing, which is what we lived through for 4 years.
So
Exactly.
let's
I'm
circle back
assuming
to
you
that
actually-
New York Times video. And there was a similar video, not quite as good, but very good, that ran on CNN last week. What were all those people on the bus saying? They were saying the election was stolen. They were saying we were cheated. They were convinced that they were doing the right thing. They were convinced that they were restoring justice. I mean, that's part of the issue. When you get a lie planted in people's heads, inside their heads, that lie is the truth.
God, imagine if you could implant the truth inside people's heads.
But I would say that King George and his men at the time of the revolution thought that the American revolutionaries were also wrong-headed. So the enemy always thinks that the other side is wrong-headed. And if you assume that there is no truth, but there are only opinions, and I think your opinion's wrong, but it doesn't actually mean it's wrong in some scientific sense, then there's a contested arena. And that contested arena, probably, sales techniques work here. When I'm selling, and I sell a lot to startups to engage with me, I never try to persuade them they should. I always try to get them to see the value in what I have to sell without me over pitching it. And it feels as if you want the people who we disagree with to listen, you can't seek to fence them in, restrict them. That's only going to lead to bad outcomes. You have to find methods of engaging them, and closing down the arena in any way just feels like unlikely to be successful.
To a certain point. There's a certain point at which you say, yeah, but you're off the network. Goodbye.
If it is a network, but you can't do that in the world. That leads
to
genocide.
Twitter did it successfully.
Well, actually,
and your argument, Keith, is that that it's a restriction of free speech, and that this is wrong, and and I agree with you right up to the point where they actually did what they did.
Actually, I'm not really talking about them. I'm talking about us, what we think.
That's what I think. What I think is that that I saw enough evidence for Trump to be removed from I'm not focused on that's the canonical example. Nobody else has done that.
QAnon you know, what Michael's talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about what I'm talking about. I'm saying that the arguments that you make fail, in my opinion, at the point where you have to make a decision about what's right and good for the country and for the world.
Yeah, but the minute you decide that what's right for the country is your point of view, you are no longer democratic.
No, I think that's that's a misuse of the data to suggest that that's the decision that was made. I think we had.
It's fine, but
I think we had plenty of time.
You can't claim to be a Democrat. You can't.
You're fleeing to. This is one of the problems that I have with the coverage on news networks, where they talk about this. This is the death of democracy. If it's the death of democracy, it's ongoing, and it's not clear whether there's democracy is dying or being reborn.
Oppression is when people you hate can't do what they want. Oppression isn't when,
No, you're framing this. People can make decisions about what they think, and if the majority of people make a decision about what they think, that is, this guy needs to leave the room. He's dangerous.
Yeah, when the room is the whole nation, you can't leave the nation.
He's not left the nation. He's just not being allowed to promote his, stuff.
But he
on
is.
That network. I'm
not talking about networks. I'm talking about.
But I am talking about it. You're talking about.
You're talking about chasing. You're talking about chasing people out of town.
No, I'm saying
where town is digital. You can't chase people out of town and expect them to cave. They'll go the other way. You'll be your own worst enemy.
Yeah,
you have every right to make the rules. If it's
that's right. Not only do you have the right.
I'm not saying you don't have the right. I'm saying it's a massive error.
But you're making a value judgment about the results of that action, and I don't agree with your.
And I don't agree with you, so it's fine.
Excellent, but we can do that.
Yeah,
but
I still love you.
But the Orange Julius is not going to show up on this network. I can guarantee it.
No, I'm not even suggesting that. We were talking more broadly about controlling poison, let's call it.
But that's where you took the discussion. I'm saying
I don't think so. No, I responded to Michael's point.
Can I just say
we have a tape. We can go back and look at it. And we'll see where it went the direction that you're talking about.
Oh my God, Nightline.
I love that you still call it.
Let's go to the videotape.
Remember tape. I've been writing for several years that there are lots of networks that people have access to. For example, just take the plumbing in your house. You have the ability and the right to change toilets or change water faucets without pulling a permit or anything else if you're working on your own home. If you're trying to do this for money for someone else, you need to pull a permit, and you can't get a permit unless you've got a license.
Yeah, but Dennis, imagine.
I'm not done. I'm not done. I think it's entirely appropriate that the social media networks have basically the same rules in place that plumbers have, that electricians have, that beauticians have, that doctors and lawyers have. Everybody's got to pass a certification and get a license before they go mucking around in the public networks.
To me, it's interesting that on antitrust, you talk about how everything's changed and we now have a modern world. But when it comes to freedom of expression, you're not prepared to accept that the world has changed and that the public place is now a social network. So you kind of are out trying to have your cake and eat it. Either the world is modern and different or it isn't. In the world of privacy, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and all those places are like the street. They're the digital street. And you can try to, preserve your liberal ethos while still wanting to ban people. Right now. But you are not a liberal when you do that. You are not.
Of course I am. Do you realize that 100 years ago, Oliver Wendell Holmes set down the clear and present danger standard for communication? It's the same standard that should apply to what we're doing in social media right now. And we're not. We're not doing anything because the technology raced ahead of society's ability to understand it and to regulate it. The tide is turning. It's time to take a look at how you regulate for the greatest good.
To me, it's a wonderful thing. Technology has released every individual's ability to have a platform. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, the ideology of everybody's got the ability to make their own books and make their own videos and to distribute them. There's a wonderful ideology. You keep leaving out the algorithmic poison, which is to say that there is something beyond me that is promoting certain kinds of things that I might say because of their ability to make other people angry.
That's always been there, Michael. I published a book for Penguin, and I can tell you, when I went to talk to the editor about what I should put in the book, there was an algorithm called Penguin's editorial policy. And what they published for us all to read was the product of an algorithm. It was a manual algorithm, but it was deeply felt and very powerful.
Every publisher has a style book and has certain marketing parameters that they'd like to meet. That's different from the promotional algorithm that's built into social media.
I don't accept that. I think the algorithm is just a mechanism for distributing content. There are many platforms. They all have different algorithms. They all are trying, that's their goal, to get engagement. And what does engagement come from? Either anger or pleasure. So I don't see right-wing stuff on my feeds because they know I don't like it. If it was all about anger, I would.
Well, I don't see right-wing stuff on my feed either, but I do see a lot of left-wing stuff that makes me angry. So I mean, the algorithm is working on me. I get things promoted to me that make me go, how dare they? How dare they?
And
the algorithms you're talking about are two different kinds of algorithms. One is post hoc and one is pre hoc. The algorithm that Penguin gave you about writing a book told you what would be acceptable for selling the book. That's pre hoc. Post hoc is when you've already got a bunch of data that you plug into an algorithm and just feed it to an angry person.
But the post hoc one is almost better, right? The first one is kind of self-censorship. The Penguin one is self-censorship. The Facebook one is I'll promote, if this is interesting, I'll promote it to the people that might like it.
I keep rejecting the criteria of interesting and people like it. It's not simply a question of what's interesting or virtuous or good and what people like. It's largely what people respond to in emotional ways.
So in terms of the Penguin editor, for example, Michael and Keith, seems to me that having worked with Random House, they had the same kind of situation, that not only did their algorithm tell you what it is that they wouldn't do, but it suggested what it is that you should do. So it is internal regulation. There's no doubt about that.
Well, yeah, but every publisher has a style. Yeah. Every author, even before they go to a publisher,
and you know going in that that's going to happen. If you don't know that's going to happen going in, then you shouldn't go in.
But the Facebook ones are way better from that point of view because it doesn't do that. You can put whatever you want.
And eventually you might get kicked off.
They've amped up their algorithmic censorship now to respond to some of the criticisms they have.
Yeah, they have.
All right. Well, I'm not sure that clearly there's no resolution to this discussion because we keep having it and we keep going nowhere with it. So the real question is why can't I have what I think is acceptable on the network and not acceptable? Why can't I make an economic decision to join or leave that network if they don't do what it is that I think is appropriate. I think that should be acceptable.
Yeah, it is. That is.
It is
acceptable.
acceptable, isn't it?
It is.
It sounds to me like it's
I thought
already
so.
that.
But when I say that, that Twitter was right to kick Trump off the network, I don't hear you saying, yeah, that's okay.
No,
So
because
what I'm saying,
I think
okay,
it's
so-
it's
so
okay
that's-
for you. No, it's okay for you to say that. I don't think it's okay for Twitter to have done it.
well, okay, I disagree with you, like you
Yeah,
said.
me
that's
too.
okay. That's also okay.
Well, it's okay, but where do we go from this?
Well,
In terms of having this discussion, if you just completely reject the notion that in some cases, if somebody stands up and yells fire in a theater, that they should be taken out of the theater. That's
Yeah, but
what Trump did for 5 years.
No, Trump
and
never
he's-
did it. Trump never did.
Of course
that.
he did. He
No,
did
he
it
didn't.
over and
No, he
over
didn't.
again.
He never did anything even approaching that.
So now you're
Really?
arguing with me.
All he
about
said was what he
my-
thinks. He said what he thinks.
And,
Oh my God.
I disagreed with him every time, but he didn't shout fire in a theater. When
Michael's
did he
going to
do
have a
that?
heart attack.
When did he shout fire in a theater?
I'm just going to say.
Tell
he
me,
did.
give me one example of fire in a theater.
He said
On
we
Twitter.
didn't need NATO.
That's not fire in a
Brent,
theater.
you have
That's the
something to
point.
say?
Yeah,
Oh,
show,
you have
show
anything?
up, show up on the 6th in Washington. It's
That's
going to
not.
be
That is
wild.
not fire in a theater.
I don't know what it is if it isn't.
Yeah, this is my point. This is my point.
We don't have.
I
to
say
agree.
something and you say, no, that's not okay.
Yeah, but
I'm
it's
not saying that.
It's not.
I'm
It's
saying that when Jack
Give me
Dorsey,
an example.
whoever it is who
Give me an
made the
example.
decision, can I finish my,
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting passionate.
well, that's not an excuse. When Jack Dorsey said, you're gone permanently, I say, you're right. Fantastic.
And
Now
I
you-
say,
and you
I
disagree with
say-
me.
And I
Okay.
say you're an idiot. Not you, Dorsey.
Well,
That
I
may be
don't
true
think,
for other
I don't
reasons.
think that that's a good debating point to say that the person on the other side is an idiot. I don't think that
Ahmed.
that's, I don't think that that's, yeah. It's basically saying, it's reducing it to passion, if you will. It's reducing it to disrespect. I mean, I think that there's a lot of what Trump has to say that unfortunately makes a lot of sense. It doesn't mean that it's a good idea to have him, running roughshod over our networks.
I think it's fine, but don't claim to be a liberal with that point of view.
I've never claimed to be a liberal. I don't even know what that means, to claim to be a liberal.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Where do
means-
you,
it
do you have a
means-
card that shows that being a liberal is a good thing?
It's
Yeah,
John
it's right
Locke.
next to
It's
our,
John-
it's right
it's
next
John
to the
Locke.
vaccine card.
It's
No,
being a
yeah,
liberal means
exactly.
that
When-
you
Vaccine
have
cards,
digested things like habeas corpus, John Locke, Mill, Rousseau. There's a long history of what it means for democracy to exist. And it definitely doesn't mean banning people you disagree with from public forums.
I'm not, this isn't a public forum. This
It's
is
totally a public forum.
that's a conceit that you have about how you define the situation that you're responding to.
Can I ask you a question?
Hang on a second. I grew up in a family of liberals. My family was directly impacted by the McCarthy period, by a whole bunch of stuff. So when you say that I'm not a card-carrying liberal because of my support for Twitter's actions, I say, I'm not going to make an ad hominem comment about it. I'm just going to say, you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you have to defend yourself, but I don't.
I do,
I don't see
and I
that
just
any. There's no logic in using rules. to
I just
stop
made,
debate.
I just said something and you immediately disagreed with it, which was, I said, that's not a public network. It's a private enterprise
I'm
that
Steve,
we
you're
have
disag-
chosen with our votes namely our feet, to have made successful to the point where somebody's come along, namely Donald Trump, and tried to use that network. Brent, I know you got to go.
I want to
He
review,
did. Great
I want to review
conversation.
the record if we
No,
can.
I think Brent has to speak.
Have a
before
good
he goes.
holiday, Brent.
Yeah, I got to go too. I can't add anything to this other than my disdain
Let me just review the record.
for what
There
Keith's
was-
saying.
No,
When-
Keith's got a right to say it, and we don't have to
Absolutely,
all
and
agree.
we have a right to feel how we feel about it, which is all good, which means we're all a bunch of liberal
but
Democrats.
wait,
We're all a bunch of liberals.
wait. When did Dorsey ban Trump?
It was
June 10th,
it was
January
immediately after his team decided not to. He overruled them.
When did he do it?
January 10th.
Right after January 6th.
That's right. It was not for crying fire in a theater. It was for setting a fire in a theater.
There you go. I
Yeah,
agree with
perfect.
that statement. I don't have a problem with what Michael Markman just said. Frank, thank you, sir.
Yeah, see you guys. Sorry I can't stick around any longer. Have a nice 4th of July.
You too.
You too.
Bye, Frank.
See you. Are we doing this next week?
No. Oh,
No.
I
No.
think not.
Okay. All right. See you guys.
2 weeks.
Right.
Right?
Are we still recording? I could go too.
No, we're still streaming.
We're still recording and streaming. So let's get back to answering Steve's question from about an hour ago. What are we celebrating on July 4th? We're celebrating the publication of one of the two founding documents of the United States, the Declaration of Independence. And the Declaration is the one that contains and encodes the highest ideals of the country, which we've never quite achieved, which are there as a goal for us. That is to say, to create a world where all people, we recognize that all men are created equal with the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the interesting thing about what was written in the Declaration is that those rights were considered to be fundamental. They weren't derived from rights that were granted by the king. They were endowed by the creator. That is to say, they were fundamental rights. And it was the Declaration that Lincoln returned to when he was making the Gettysburg Address, to say that a government founded on those principles needs to endure. That's what we're celebrating on the 4th, and we haven't achieved it yet. But I'm really encouraged that not only does Lincoln keep going back to that document, but so does the current president, Biden.
Yeah. Well said.
I'd like to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gilmore.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Tina.
I'd like to thank
Happy 4th of July.
Frank Radis. I'd like to thank Brent Leary. I'd like to thank Keith Tier. I'd like to thank, what is your name again? Dennis Pombriant?
Beagle
French, isn't it?
Research. Beagle Research.
Isn't the France the birthplace of liberty?
The revolution.
Well,
was
you know,
amazing.
there was the French Enlightenment and there was the English Enlightenment. They were both wonderful.
And I want to thank Michael Markman.
Well, thank you all. Have a good holiday and a good weekend.
Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who got kicked off the Twitter. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Did we say thank you to Tina?
Happy trails to you.
Now that we did that first.
Oh.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.